and it's in my group. Are you in the group?
Okay, then no.
All right, well, we'll take care of that later. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine with me.
All right. Well, hello and welcome, everybody. Oh, let me admit one more person and we'll get started. I need to find a creative name for what we're doing tonight, but welcome again to a Tuesday evening conversation, whatever we want to call it. I'm happy to welcome Trasetta Alexander as a guest for tonight. She and I met at a conference that we spoke at in South Carolina in March, so just a month ago. Fantastic experience. And Trasetta, I'm telling you, Trasetta, you do a lot of things, don't you?
A little bit. I have quite a few hats.
Yeah. So you'll have to tell us about them. First of all, Trasetta helped me a lot with just me getting started. I mean, I'm newer to the world of speaking and coaching and online and everything else, and she was nice enough to spend some valuable time with me getting my YouTube up, getting some social media going. She even taught me how to make the invitation for tonight. So she's helpful in all sorts of ways.
Oh,
So Trasetta, tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Well, first of all, Ben, thank you so much for having me as your guest tonight. As you mentioned, I wear many hats. So my business, I'm a faith-based business productivity coach. And what that really means is that I help believers to clarify, prioritize, and monetize their purpose so that they can live the abundant life that Christ died for them to have. And I'm still working a 9-to-5 job. And so in my daytime job, I am the assistant director of outreach for the Florida State University College of Medicine. And my husband and I pastor a church. I'm also a wife, a mom, auntie, mentor, and anything else you can think to throw in there, into the kitchen sink probably fits the mold. So that's a little bit about me.
That is awesome. So much going on, makes you have a lot of good experience, and a lot of people can relate with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can. I've worked in several different industries. My background is in social work, so I have the business management side of me, but then I also have the social work side of me. So I love to serve people, and I love to pull out the potential and purpose that I see in others.
That's perfect. And I'm glad that we get to talk about that today. I think people go through different phases of life, of course, and they might need to ask themselves the question of what's my purpose multiple times, depending on what's going on, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the number one thing that people fail to realize is that they don't have to look externally to find their purpose. A lot of people go to coaches, go to pastors, go to counselors, maybe even friends and family, trying to figure out what their purpose is, when in all actuality, what they need to do is go inwardly, is to get into that inward, that introspection so that they can uncover their purpose. They don't have to find it. It just needs to be uncovered, because I believe that your purpose is already in you. And we've already kind of connected with our purpose. What has happened though is life circumstances, the struggles and challenges of life, the expectation of others, the desires of others that people have put on us tend to kind of shove that down and bury it inside of us. And so we just have to do a little bit of excavation so that we can get back down to the core, or to the core really of who we are, that seed on the inside of us.
Right. So let's say people in this environment that we're in right now, where they have some extra time and their normal isn't so normal, do you have any tools or things they can do now to say, hey, what's my purpose right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The number one thing that I always recommend people do is to first go to God, is to go and get into a place of prayer and meditation, because I believe that everyone was created on purpose and for a purpose. And that purpose comes directly from our Heavenly Father. And so whenever you're seeking to tap into what you were created for, why not go to the Creator? But I do have a guide that I created called the 5 questions to clarify and monetize your purpose, where I walk people through the process of a few introspective questions that they can use to help them connect the dots between what their gifts are, what their values are, as well as how they can use those to craft some sort of tool to monetize their purpose. And so I'll just really quickly tell you all what those questions are. So if you wanted to go back later and just kind of get a piece of paper, you can kind of walk yourself through that process. Or before we leave tonight, I'll share with you how you can get download a copy of that particular guide that I have. It's just a free guide that I have on my website. And so the very first question is to ask yourself, what am I good at? What are the things that come naturally to me? What are the things that people typically tend to say, you're so good at that, or ask to help them with it? So that would be, that's the number one question. The second question would be, like, what am I passionate about? What are the things that I lose track of time when I'm doing them? What are the things that, and a lot of times when we talk about passion, people think that we have to stay in the positive side of passion, that it brings joy. But it could also be something that is upsetting to you or angers you, is more on the negative side. Because a lot of times, people start foundations or start movements, start organizations because they lost a loved one to drugs, or they suffered some sort of domestic violence, and so they don't want to see people go through that struggle again. So maybe it's something that angers you. So what is it that I'm passionate about? The next question would be, what are my values? What are the things that I hold to my core that are non-negotiables in my life? Maybe, like for me, my faith is one of those things, my beliefs as a Christian. It could be integrity. It could be, another one of mine is lifelong learning, right? So what are those things that you hold true to your life, no matter what? And then the fourth question is to really just kind of sit down and brainstorm and say, all right, what are the different ways that people make money? What are the ways that people can create income? Not necessarily limiting yourself to like what you think you can do, but just what are the avenues that money can be made? And there's a plethora of ways that people can make money. And then the last question is to go back and review all those first four questions and kind of just make some combinations. They can be random, they could be measured, it really doesn't matter, but just make as many combinations as you can between what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what your values are, and the different ways to make money. And once you've done that, you'll start to see a common theme between all of the different ways to make money that you, combinations that you created. And I call that your core purpose. So at the center of that central theme is going to be your core purpose. And then all of the different prongs that come off of that, the different combinations that you made, I call those prongs of purpose. And so a lot of times my clients will come to me and they want to start a business, and they're like, well, I've got this idea and I've got this idea, and they have all these different ideas, and they feel like, which one do I do? I'm going off in all these different directions. And I walk them through this exercise, and it helps them to see that the majority of the time, all those different ideas that they have are actually connected by their core purpose. And it's not so much that they have a bunch of random ideas, they're all connected by a central theme. And then what we do is kind of take a look and decide, well, what's the low-hanging fruit here? So if you think about like a fruit tree, what's the fruit that's on the bottom? What's the easiest for me to grab hold of? What's the easiest thing for me to get started with? And then get started there. I have gone through many iterations of my purpose. At the core of my purpose is to help others tap into their own purpose. And I've done that through several different avenues over the last 6 years or so. And so don't be afraid to kind of test the waters. A lot of times we think we got to have it all figured out and that it's got to be perfect before we get moving. But, get to that most viable product, get to that most viable option, put it out there, test the waters, get feedback, from people and what they think, what works, what didn't work, what resonated with people, what didn't. Then take that feedback, go back to the drawing table, make some adjustments, put it back out there again, and just keep testing until you get to the place where, all right, now I'm in my lane. I feel like I'm confident and comfortable in the thing that I feel called to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow, those are a lot of valuable nuggets right there.
Sorry, I know I went a little fast.
No worries. I think those are great, and you articulated them really well. So since we have this live and recorded, people will be able to go back and listen to them.
Sure,
and I encourage all the listeners to do those steps. I've done similar steps, and just like Trasetta said, it's cool how as I write them down, answering the different questions, a theme starts to be made apparent, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, these are all common. This is what I like to do. I think I can do it. And it starts to make a little bit of sense because you've written it down.
Yeah.
If I might add something too that helps, this helped me discover my purpose, and it's mixing in the help of others. So on top of what Trasetta just told us, I was encouraged to ask 5 of my close friends or family members these 3 questions. I asked them, what do you admire about me? What am I naturally good at? And what do you wish I would realize about myself? And I'm telling you, when I asked people those questions, then the same thing came out, the same themes came out, like Trasetta's talking about, but it also had an element of, oh my goodness, somebody else already thinks that about me.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I've actually done that exercise as well. And I think it's really helpful for people who struggle with maybe have some confidence or self-esteem issues to do that as well, because a lot of times when it comes to writing down the things that we're good at, a lot of times we kind of get a little stumped, and we feel like we might be being a little arrogant or being conceited, or kind of full of ourselves by saying that we're good at something. And so having that outside opinion can also be really great if you find yourself kind of in that block or feeling a little stuck with listing out the things that you feel like you're good at.
I love this subject, so we're going to keep talking about it for at least a minute or 2 more. So
Okay.
It reminds me of something else that I've learned on that subject of sometimes not so confident in ourselves because we might feel it's prideful, right?
Yeah.
Where if we say, what's something that we watch somebody do and it bugs us that they do it wrong, right? If you think about that, oh my goodness,
a great one.
Right? And it shows that it's a strength of ours because we think we could do it better because it comes more easily to us.
Yeah.
The other thing is, what do you absolutely love doing? Anyway, I forget the third question, but those types of things where we could, well, I can't admit to that because it's prideful, but in reality, it's a strength. And if we admit to it and we, accept that strength, then we can be a strength to others.
Right. Absolutely. And, one of the things that I like to share with people, especially if they're struggling with that, is kind of like the parable of the talents. God gives each one of us gifts, right? And so he gives each person their own set of gifts and their own level of gifts. And it is our responsibility to use the gifts that he gave us to be good stewards over those gifts, so that when he comes back, when he returns, that we have, he's got a return on that investment that he's placed in us, where we can say, look, I took what you gave me and I expect, this is what I accomplished with it. And we don't want to be like that one servant who hid the talent, right? Who went and buried it and hid it because that, the response of the master was, oh, thou wicked servant, right? So that's not what we want to hear. We want to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant. And we also want to increase in our gifts. And so the only way we can do that is to actually put them to good use, to be good stewards over the gifts that we have been given.
Absolutely. No, I love this. And I think it's so much fun to be in our shoes where we watch people discover their strength and talents, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. When that light bulb goes off, and
exactly, and the light in their eyes too. I had a class come into the room once, and they're a little shy, eyes down kind of thing. But by the end, they were confident and happy and excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no other feeling like it. Matter of fact, that's actually what happened to me when the very first time that I taught a workshop. Once I when I officially launched my coaching practice, um, I literally remember thinking, this is what I was born to do. Like I came alive. I was so high off of how I felt in in those moments of sharing my knowledge with people that I've been chasing that high ever since. Because I'm like, that is what, we can only be truly fulfilled when we're walking in the thing that we were created to do.
Awesome. Oh, I love this. So we've had a great conversation on created for purpose and conversations around purpose.
Yeah.
One thing that I like to include in these is, because I speak to a lot of people about overcoming emotional pain so they can unlock their potential and fulfill their purpose or build their dream. So Trasetta, if you would share an example of a time that you had to overcome an emotional pain and how you got through it.
Well, I'm not sure if well, I think that this would qualify as an emotional pain. I was a non-traditional student, so I got my bachelor's degree I walked across the stage at the age of 40 to actually obtain my bachelor's degree in social work. And I graduated with honors. It was a very exciting time for me. I had planned to take 2 weeks off and just kind of enjoy life a little bit, and then start studying for the GMAT so that I can go get started with grad school the following spring. Well, my plans got a little thwarted because I was diagnosed with breast cancer within that 2-week period that I was resting. And so, of course, my whole outlook on life, I had to like make some shifts in my life as far as what I was going to do, because I had to go through treatment. I had to have multiple surgeries, and it was a bit of a it was a bit of a stressful time. I believe that I'm strong in faith, and I felt all along that I was going to be able to come out on the other side. I had a really good prognosis, but nevertheless, it still challenged me. But I felt like I needed to do something to kind of charge my faith, to really build myself up a little bit more for the journey ahead. I didn't know exactly what that journey was going to look like, but I just felt like I needed to kind of, beef up my faith a little bit. And so I decided to face another fear, which was my fear of heights. Ever since I was a little kid, I discovered after climbing to the very tippy top of a magnolia tree in our backyard that I was afraid of heights. And so just standing on top of a chair kind of unnerved me. And so I decided I was going to face that fear. And on my 41st birthday, just a few weeks after being diagnosed, I went ziplining. So 60 feet up in the air in trees. And I learned a lot through that experience. I learned a lot about myself and what I was capable of. I learned a lot about how sometimes the journey that we're on, sometimes we have to walk that journey alone. While there may be people around us to support you, there are certain parts of your journey that only you can go through. No one else can experience certain pieces of your journey. And so through that experience, I just really came to trust God on a whole new level. I learned how to lean into Him in difficult times like what we're facing right now. And I also learned that I'm stronger than I think I am, or I was stronger than I thought I was. And I think that if, even in these difficult times right now, if we could lean into our faith and lean into God, that we will discover or uncover just how much strength there is on the inside of us, and that we were made for the journey that God has us on.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that story.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing that I've learned about just emotions and how they interact with us, of course, is that sometimes what happens to us emotionally as a part of what happens to us physically, the emotions stay with us longer.
Yeah.
So we might have a physical injury or a cancer of some sort, and thank goodness that you had a recovery. But sometimes it's possible that, you know, the emotions stay longer or they affect deeper, right? But that's
Oh,
neat.
absolutely.
That's neat how you were able to focus on good things and overcome things and stay close to God. The important thing about any emotion is admitting that you have it. Don't try to hide it. And
Right.
teaming up with others. I mean, God's the all powerful and the master healer, which is perfect. And then I'm sure you were able to reach out to some trusted friends or family members to help you through emotionally. Is that right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. While I was, I had many, many days when I was strong, but I did have those kind of breakdown moments. And I allowed myself that space to, I think a lot of times we try to squish down our emotions and deny that they're actually there. But I gave myself the space to feel what I was feeling, to feel all the fear, to feel all the hurt, to feel all the disappointment, so that I could move through it. There's this, if you don't mind, I just want to kind of share this antidote. Um, I heard not that long ago about buffalo and cows. And what happens is if you have buffaloes and cows grazing in a plain or in a field, and a storm comes rolling in from the west headed east, the cows will turn to the east and run towards the east to try and get away from the storm. But they can't run fast enough to outrun the storm. And so what happens is the storm ends up catching up with them. And because they can't run fast enough to actually get beyond it, they end up staying in the storm a lot longer because they're running with the storm. Whereas the buffalo do the opposite. They turn into the storm and run into it so that they end up moving through the storm a lot faster, and getting on the other side of it. And so I think that if we could like lean in to the storm, lean into the emotion, lean into the pain, lean into whatever it is that we're feeling, so that we can get beyond it faster than if we try to run from it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, this has been great. Trasetta, how can people get a hold of you, or how can they connect with you?
Sure, absolutely. I am on social media as Trasetta Alexander, pretty much everywhere. The only place that it's different is gonna be Twitter, because my name is too long for Twitter. So, so it's just Trasetta A on Twitter, but everywhere else, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, it's Trasetta Alexander. My website is also trasettaalexander.com. And I believe I have on my website, I have kind of like a free resource. If you just click on resources, when you go to the homepage, you can find all the different free guides and downloads that I have available on my website if you're interested in getting that workbook that I talked about earlier.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thank you everybody for
My
watching,
pleasure.
either now or later. These happen every Tuesday evening. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Ben.
See ya.